The PlayStation 3 is a very special console for me. I wouldn't say it's my favorite of all time, that would go to the PlayStation 2, but this was the first time I was constantly exposed to high-definition gaming with an online world that was fairly consistent, because even though the PS2 did have online capabilities, it wasn't up until the PS3 and Xbox 360 generation that became more of a normal thing. And talking about normal things, this was also the first time that I saw that you could buy games physically but digitally as well, and in addition, you did have access to DLC. My first PS3 was the really big one that had PS2 backwards compatibility. Unfortunately, it stopped working, so I ended up getting a refurbished Slim model, the first Slim, and that's where I played most of these games. But before I showcase 5 of my favorite PS3 games, don't forget to go to the comments section and let me know which are your favorite PS3 games, and hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell so you can get access to future videos. But without further ado, my friends, let's talk about the first game from this list, perhaps the weirdest one, but one of my favorites. Let's talk about Asura's Wrath. First of all, I need to apologize for this. I made a ton of mistakes in 2016, but by far the worst one was thinking that mustache was a good idea. Asura's Wrath came out in 2012 for the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, and if you want to play it on the modern consoles, it's actually backwards compatible on the Xbox One. I had never heard about the game, but a really good friend of mine kept telling me, Juan, if you want to play an outrageous game with an outrageous story, you have to try it. And one day, I saw it on sale for $10, brought it back home, and my life was never the same again. Developed by CyberConnect 2, known for their dot hack games on the PlayStation 2, this is a story of betrayal. You were not supposed to be alive, so now you seek revenge towards your worst enemies. And let's just say, I played a ton of games where the main character gets pissed off, gets frustrated, but nothing, and I guarantee you, nothing, no other character, no other game will get you a character as pissed off as this guy right here. I mean, just look at this. This is amazing. Now I'll be real. I love the game, I completed it, but the gameplay is very much secondary to the cutscenes. This is not a video game. This is an experience that you will never forget if you get to play it. The gameplay is divided into 3 categories. The first one is a casual beat 'em up. You get to go around as you're swarmed by enemies, you gotta take them all down, and you do have a slight variation of different attacks. If you're a fan of Star Fox, this next gameplay session may actually interest you, as it's almost like a space shoot 'em up where you're kinda going on rails, and there you have to target the different enemies. And the last one, and something that maybe did not hold up, but in 2012, this was all the rage, QuickTime events. But I'm just gonna say, this game does QuickTime events like no other. I had situations where the entire screen was the circle button prompt, and I'm like, what? Oh, okay. I have not played any other game since then that tells such an outrageous story with ridiculous cutscenes, and it also helped that I played the entire game live on stream, which is part of the footage that you're watching right now. And that's why I have to apologize again, because I know the gameplay looks solid, but it's just right there, staring at you. But yeah, check out Asura's Wrath and be on the lookout, because I saw on eBay that this game is going up in price. I paid $10 when I got it, and it is definitely not that price anymore. For the second game, I want to showcase a genre that I don't really love all that much, but there was something about the Burnout series that ever since I played the first Burnout, I believe on the Nintendo GameCube, I fell in love with. And then with Burnout Paradise, they opened everything up, and nowadays you can buy this on PS4, Xbox One. Usually it's $5, so not bad at all. But let's talk a little bit more about Burnout Paradise. Burnout Paradise takes my favorite things about Grand Theft Auto and turns it into a feature-filled driving game. And I call it a driving game because although you can race, you can do so many things in this game that aren't tied to getting first place that it's a crime to just label it a racing game. I bought it the year it came out because I saw that they were taking the Burnout games into an open world, and I really wanted to see that firsthand. Making the game open world did make it lose some of its unique charm from the previous games, but that being said, I did not mind that all that much. What I love about Burnout Paradise is that not only do you get started quickly, you can unlock cars, you can drive around to wherever you like, and even race online with friends with just a few button presses. I was amazed at just how easily you could connect with other players and then go offline at a moment's notice. Some of the game modes include stunts, where you crash, drift, and unleash hell in Paradise City. Markman is a simple yet challenging game mode where they have you drive from point A to point B, but you can't crash too much, otherwise you fail the mission. In racing mode, you race. You race a lot, you hope to get first place, and if you get first place, eventually you get to upgrade your driver's license. And that was a big deal because if you had a camera, you could actually take a picture of yourself and take that online. And yes, I'm not going to post pictures, but people did take pictures that were not of their faces. I'm talking about their hands, right? I love this game because it's beautiful, it's fun, and it doesn't involve a lot of thinking. It's a game that you can play for 30 minutes, see cars crash in glorious slow motion, turn it off, and keep going in your life. Did you play Burnout Paradise? If not, please get it on a sale because I know you will not regret it. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you should know I'm a pretty big fan of professional wrestling, and hopefully someday in the near future I'll do a top 5 favorite wrestling games video. But I guess in many ways this is a spoiler because this game would be in that list, so let's talk about WWE 2K14. It's usually got The Rock on the cover, but this is like the backside. Shout out to MVP Mike 13, you've been eternally immortalized in a PS3 game cover. This game's not that different from WWE 13, which came out a year before, but honestly, that's not a bad thing. I don't know what happened with the shift from WWE 2K14 to 2K15 onwards, because I think that with WWE 12, 13, and this one, they finally found a formula that I think a lot of people enjoyed. The core gameplay mechanics hold up, because it's not a slow, sluggish game like the ones we have now. And this is not nostalgia talking, I still play this game on a regular basis, specifically trying to beat Undertaker on the Beat the Streak mode, which I think they needed to do more of. If you've never played it, what happens is that the Undertaker becomes a boss. Not that boss. And he's damn near impossible to defeat. Say you're just about to beat him, boom, the lights go out and he's right back up. He can counter almost every move you have, and I love the fact that they took the gameplay mechanics that we know and love, spiked up the difficulty, and I love the fact that it wasn't just about defeating the Undertaker, but how fast you could do that, which superstar you chose, and you could talk about that with friends. But there are two specific things that I love about WWE 2K14, the first one being online play. Wrestling games don't usually tend to have the best online experience with a lot of delays, lagginess, but here you can download superstars, you can upload stages, but when it comes to the actual matches, they're pretty fluid, all things considered. I spent hundreds of hours playing online with a couple of friends, one-on-one, triple threats, fatal four-way matches, and I love that it's building up your character, taking that person online, and trying to become the very best. And the second thing, and anybody that loves to get creative, you know where I'm going. Create a story, create a character. You could create almost anything in this game, including cutscenes. Say you wanted to create your own custom character and have them interact with another superstar, you can do that. You can even plug in your USB keyboard, write down dialogue, and see the scene come to fruition. The story mode is a compilation because it is 30 years of WrestleMania, so if you're somebody that went out of wrestling for a couple of years, this would actually not be the worst way to try and catch up, although this is a video game that came out in 2013, which means that when you look at the roster, at the top you see the current superstars, but current as of, let's say, mid to late 2012, and at the bottom you have a large variation of superstars, including Goldberg. So if you want to get a fast, fluid, and fun wrestling game, and you don't want to go all the way back to the Nintendo 64 or even the PlayStation 2, WWE 2K14 available on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 is a great option for you. Now, I've poured hundreds of hours into WWE 2K14, but this next game, I feel like it competed with my time, and much like Burnout Paradise, this is another genre that I really wasn't a big fan of, and I can't showcase the cover because it's a digital-only game, but up next, we gotta talk about Super Stardust HD. Super Stardust HD came out in 2007 for the PS3, and it is definitely one of my top 5 favorite PS3 games of all time, and maybe the game that I poured the most hours into. I had heard about games like Geometry Wars where you have the top-down view, twin-stick shooter, and people love to play them, but up until this point, they never hooked me. Partially because I had never played one. But one day, I was browsing GameSpot's website and I saw gameplay footage, and in it, I listened to the soundtrack. Something about it just pumped me up, and I think that after Calling All Cars and Pain, because I bought Pain, this was one of my first digital purchases on the PS3. So why do I love it? Aside from the music, this game is still stunning to look at, and it runs at a buttery smooth 60 frames per second. In the game, you play through different planets, and each one has different materials and enemies. Now, what's great about this is that you have different weapons that you can upgrade as you progress. And this isn't some kind of upgrade system where you buy what you want to upgrade. As you continue to defeat enemies, you'll see the upgrades pop up on the planet. Now, say you want to get a particular upgrade, you can actually wait a couple of seconds and have something switch to a different one. And that's because every weapon has a benefit to a particular material or enemy. Now, in addition to the weapons, you also have bombs. Say things are getting just a little bit too hectic for you, hit a shoulder button and everything just blows up. One of my other favorite things about the game is the boost mechanic. The boost allows you to quickly get out of a specific area when there are way too enemies on screen. And you have a shield that shields you. Now, you really want to be on the lookout for that because those don't pop out all that often. So when you get a shield, please keep it to yourself, savor that moment because it won't last forever. My favorite thing to do in Super Stardust HD is to go into the arcade mode and see how long I can last without dying, as the longer you go, the higher your score becomes. If you die, you lose your multiplier points, and then you get sad. Real sad. There have been other versions of this game, including one for the PS Vita, and those are all good and great, but please, if you didn't buy a lot of games on the PS3 in a digital format, this is absolutely one of the most definitive games for the PlayStation 3. And now this last pick is going to be a little weird because I've mentioned that I'm not a big fan of racing games when I talked about Burnout Paradise, but one of the first games on the PS3 that when I saw the graphics and trailers and I was blown away by was Motorstorm. And before I talk about the game in itself, when I first bought a PS3, I watched Blu-ray movies, which the first one that I watched was The Condemned, starring Stone Cold Steve Austin. But I didn't have a flat screen LCD or a plasma. I actually had a CRT like a heavy television, a giant one that didn't do 1080p. It did do 1080i though, and that's where I first played this game, which I love because it was fun. But okay, let's talk about Motorstorm now. Okay, here we go. So Motorstorm came out in December 2006, and I didn't pay $60 for this game. I had to pay $70 because when I wanted to buy it, I couldn't find it at EB Games or GameStop. I had to go to the Sony store in Puerto Rico, and I damn near had a heart attack when I saw the price tag, but I wanted to play it because it was beautiful. This game has a lot in common with Burnout Paradise when it comes to the things that I love about it. Burnout Paradise eventually got DLC where you could use motorcycles, but in this game you have motorcycles, buggies, all sorts of different vehicles, and I love the fact that in the same race you can have the motorcycle and every other different vehicle. And I'm just gonna say that hypothetically, if I was that motorcycle driver and I looked around and I saw other cars that were, I don't know, 4 to 5 times the size of mine, maybe I would just sort of back out and wait for the next one. When it comes to the gameplay, I don't think Motorstorm does anything revolutionary, but because it's so graphically stunning, it makes everything stand out. Now, something that I have to point out and that I really appreciate is that there's a level of heaviness with each vehicle that I really do appreciate. So when you have that massive jump and you go right down, you feel the impact of the vehicle as you continue your race. And with a game like this, you have to carry it with a great soundtrack, and this is no exception. You have Slipknot, Queens of the Stone Age, Nirvana, Primal Scream, and many more. I remember Sony trying hard to sell this game to the players because it showcased the graphical capabilities of the PlayStation 3. Just because I'm putting this one at the end of this video, that doesn't mean I like it more than Burnout Paradise. Burnout Paradise is something that I will forever love, and to me it's like 5 times the game that this one was. But Motorstorm is most definitely still a fun game worth going back to. So those have been 5 of my favorite PS3 games. I'm not going to say they're my top 5 favorite games of all time because I'm not the type of gamer that can easily have that conversation. I have 20 games for a console that I love, And maybe you ask me on a Monday, and this game is going to have the top spot, but then on a Tuesday, this one sort of sneaks up. So that's why I thought I would do 5 overall, and I'll eventually be doing a second part of this video if you would like me to do that. But even working on the list, it was a little challenging because, as I've mentioned, you have the physical library, but you also have the digital games. So when talking about Super Stardust HD, I'll be real in saying that initially I had another game take up that spot. And it's because I forgot about it. Out of sight, out of mind. So when I was browsing PSN and browsing the games that I got out of PlayStation Plus, that's when I went like, of course, I gotta talk about Super Stardust HD. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to go to the comment section and let me know which are 5 of your favorite PS3 games. They don't have to be in a particular order. And as I mentioned, if you'd like me to work on a sequel to this video, let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, if you had a fun time, consider subscribing, hitting that notifications bell, and giving me a thumbs up. Up until next time, thank you for watching and supporting, and take care, everybody.